You know, when you think about it, in selling, there are always about a half a dozen points that make 80% of the difference between success and failure. So success then, in our business or any business, is to seek out and to concentrate on those important points that make all the difference. And you're going to call these the fundamentals. Now, you know, the fundamentals in our business, the two of them have to be, first of all, know the products and believe in the products. And when you tie these two together, you call it enthusiasm. Now, in any cordial, it doesn't make any difference who makes the product or what they call it. There are always three things. And the three things in any and every cordial, first of all, are the flavors. The flavor, singular, for peppermint schnapps, or the flavors for the blackberry-flavored brandy, a lot of flavors. The other thing that is in every one of them, it doesn't make any difference who produces the product, are the spirits. And, of course, the third one is sugar. Now, the interesting thing about cordials is that there's no single recipe for peppermint schnapps. In other words, the government does not say to every one of the producers, this is the recipe for peppermint schnapps. There's so much flavor in it, there's so much spirits in it, and there's so much sugar in it. Not so. Every producer has the option or the right to be as creative as possible in the production of his products. And obviously the ones that come the closest to being really and truly what it is that the consumer is interested in, they're going to be the most successful. Now, in this combination, because there is no single formula, they can make any adjustments in these that they like. And we'd like to start off showing you something about sugar. Sugar, when you think about it, is one of the three, but it's incredibly important because it does more than just make the product taste like it's sweet. And to show you one of the nice ways to demonstrate sugar, what we're going to do is to take the sugar. Now, this is the Colorado beet sugar that Hiram Walker uses in all of the cordials, Colorado beet sugar. And the reason that they use the Colorado beet sugar is for the low iron content in the sugar. Now, what difference does that make? In a sugar, it is possible to get a lot of the impurities out, but not all of them, and you can't get out all the iron. Now, certainly in your time, you've seen a water white product like white mint or peppermint schnapps, anything that is white and has started to turn yellow. Well, what has happened is that the iron in the sugar has started to oxidize out, and that turned the product yellow. If you have something like this Colorado beet sugar here, you're going to have the absolute lowest possible or no iron content. If you use something like this, the Domino regular sugar that you find in the grocery store, you're going to find a list of a color of impurities in here that'll really surprise you. So that's the reason we're doing this first. We're going to mix these two and show you at the end of this thing, we'll show you just what the difference is. Now, why is this important? You know, when you think about it, every producer that makes a product and comes and talks to your sales force says the same thing. We have the finest quality product on the market. Believe me, I have never lied to you. What you're going to be able to do after this is that you're going to say to the sales force, it's incredibly important that you know the product and that you believe in the product. I'm going to tell you about the product, and more than that, I'm going to demonstrate why these products are better. You remember the old line, what you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So we now have the Colorado beet sugar in here, which Walker uses in all of its cordials. And over in this other one, we have the Domino sugar, which is available to all of the cordial producers in the industry. And what we'll do then is wait until the end, and you'll see what an incredible difference it is. While we're on the sugar and we're thinking about the sugar, remember, sugar does more for the cordial product than just make it sweet. One of the things that it does is to give you the mouthfeel. And the mouthfeel is incredibly important. When you try to describe mouthfeel, it's the difference between a thick malted milk and a regular milkshake, the thickness of it. Mouthfeel is character. What happens, you know, when you get it in your mouth. Mouthfeel is the difference, for instance, between fresh cooked broccoli that's been steamed for 2 or 3 minutes and broccoli that's been frozen, and then you put it in a pan with water and you cook it for however long. It is mushy. Whereas the fresh steamed broccoli still has a lot of character and a lot of taste to it. That's what the sugar does for it. Also, it works on your head. It's interesting that the cola people or the soda people, they want to have the sugar that is in their sodas to give you an incredibly high immediate reaction to the sweetness of the product. And then they want the product to tail off very quickly. You can't have the best of both worlds. If you get it very high in the beginning, it has to fall off very quickly. Hiram Walker, on the other hand, believes that the best way for the consumer really to enjoy the product is to get a sweetness level, and then maintain it. So you're not going to have a sweetness level change in your taste in consuming any one of our products. And the function of that, purpose of that, is with the sugar. Also, it works on your head. It's incredibly important what the sugar does for it. But this is the way to demonstrate it. The Colorado beet sugar, Domino regular cane sugar, there's an incredible difference. Now you say, why don't they use it only for the water white products? That's the only place where it could show. That's true. But the reason that they use it for all of the cordials, no matter what the color, is that they're avoiding the possibility that some Monday morning the fellow that makes the simple syrup with the sugar comes in and he's hung over from the weekend and he forgot what he's making and what he should be having, and he can't read the list. So in order to avoid any possibility of a mistake being made and the wrong sugar being put in there, they use only Colorado beet sugar, and it makes an incredible difference in these products. Sugar. The other thing that is incredibly important, or is equally important, are the flavors, and that's the thing that we would like to concentrate on now. It's either a single flavor, as you find in peppermint schnapps. There's only peppermint in here. Or in the case of the blackberry-flavored brandy, there are a lot of flavors, and I'll tell you about them. In the case of peach, would you believe it that peach schnapps says it's just that. It's peach schnapps. The original perception you might have is that it is peach, right? Wrong. There are over 50 different separate and distinct flavors that go into making up that peach schnapps. There may be just an eyedropper full of one particular flavor, and in another one there may be a tablespoonful. But it shows you the incredible job that these flavor chemists do when they put together a product like this peach schnapps. You just can't make it from peach concentrate. Now, why? Well, the reason that you can't do it from that is that you know that there are all different varieties of peaches. They are grown in all different sections of the world. The people that collect these flavors get these peaches from all over the world, different types, different peaches. You can't blend enough of one kind at one time to have exactly the same thing batch after batch after batch. So they have to compound it. And in the process of that, they use over 50 or 60 different flavors. Isn't that interesting? But it's in the peach. It has to be in everybody's. But the secret of the thing is to get the flavor that most nearly matches your consumer's perception of what peach is. Peach is a magnificently, beautifully pre-ripened product that when you pull it down and you bite into it, the juice runs down your face, and my God, all you taste and all you smell is peach. Now, that's the situation that you find with Walker. Let me show you something else that's interesting about flavors. To demonstrate flavors, the best one to use for something like that is peppermint, because people understand peppermint. A ton of it is grown in this country. If the peppermint leaf looks something like this, all flavors come from the oil of peppermint. Now, the oil of peppermint is microencapsulated in this peppermint leaf. Now, microencapsulation is the thing that you're familiar with, the scratch and sniff test. Remember that? Where they had it in so many magazines, especially ladies' magazines. They want you to try this powder, this cologne, this whatever. So they have it in there, and they scratch it, and you get that particular aroma, microencapsulation. Same thing here with this peppermint leaf, peppermint. The key to this thing is always say peppermint, not mint. Always say peppermint when you're talking about peppermint schnapps. Now, here's the interesting thing here, that in this leaf, with all these microencapsulated flavors of peppermint, there are over 60 different peppermint flavors in there, all microencapsulated. The secret is to get as many of these different flavors out as you can for the balance. Now, they're all peppermint, every one of them. But they have an incredibly subtle change in range of the peppermint. A good example, way to describe that is that when you're talking to a sales group, you say, you all know red. but there are different shades of red. For instance, there is red. That's one shade of red. There's another shade of red over there. There's another shade of red. There's a tie. It has a different shade of red. They're all reds, right? But they're different shades. They're all peppermint, but they're different shades of peppermint. Now, here's something interesting about this. To get these oils of peppermint out of here from this microencapsulation, they have to distill it. And the way they have found from experience that they can't go out to a peppermint field. For instance, the peppermint fields in Northern California are huge. They will be the size of 6, 8, or 10 football fields. And when harvest time comes in September, rather than go out and pick the peppermint like they would cotton or soybeans or something like that and take it to a processing plant, they move the distillery, a small portable still, right out into the field. And what they do then, in some places, they have these large permanent setups in there. So then they will take a large stainless steel cylinder. They pack it full of these leaves. They drive live steam through there. When the live steam hits these microencapsulated oils of peppermint, they break, they vaporize, right? When they get down to here, they run it through a coal jacket, and it reduces both the oil of peppermint into a liquid and the water. They drain off the water, they put the oil of peppermint into a stainless steel cylinder and bring it to a plant, and they freeze it. That's one of them. Now remember, isn't it reasonable that the producer that can get the greatest number of these true flavors out of here is going to make the best peppermint schnapps? Now when you think about it, peppermint schnapps is three things. Remember, it's the flavor, peppermint, it's sugar, and it's spirits. You can make peppermint schnapps at home. You go to your friendly druggist and get some oil of peppermint. And then you get a bottle of vodka, and you get some simple syrup. You know, a cup of sugar, half a cup of water. You boil it till it's stable. And then what you do, a peppermint, oil of peppermint is incredibly strong. So you put it into that bottle of vodka, eyedropper at a time. And you put the sugar, the simple syrup in there, tablespoonful at a time. And then you keep shaking it up. And after a while, you reduce it to proof with some distilled water. But after a while, you're going to get something that, listen, you've got to have a great imagination to say that what you've made is peppermint schnapps. But it really is flavor, sugar, and spirits, right? You can make it your own, but it's going to be lousy. If you're going to make a great one, you've got to start with a great oil of peppermint, and that's in here. You get the most of these flavors out of here. One process of distillation. Walker, to have the best peppermint on the market, does two other types. One of them is freeze-dried. Now, freeze-dried, you'll remember this. The best way to illustrate this is to talk about the way somebody's grandmother used to wash back in the olden days, you know. What she'd do is she'd boil it in a kettle and then wring it out, and she'd hang it out on the line. Now, what happens in the wintertime when it's below freezing and Grandma didn't have a dryer? She put it out on the line, didn't she? But what happened at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when she went to bring it in? Somebody's going to tell you that the sheet froze. And that's true. Freeze-dried. When Grandma brought that sheet in, it was frozen, but it was dry, freeze-dried. When the newspaper boy throws your newspaper into a puddle, the best way to dry it out is not to stick it in the oven, stick it in the freezer. When you take it out of the freezer, it's going to be frozen, cold, but it's going to be dry, freeze-dried. But what happens then is that you get a much better, much truer oil of peppermint. There's still another way. That is vacuum distillation, and in the case of the vacuum distillation, you get the water boils at a much lower temperature. Same thing as you have in Denver, that the water boils at a lower temperature out there because of the altitude. I want to tell you one other interesting thing about freezing and flavors and oils and things like that. Some of you will remember, well, you have to be much older than me to remember something like this, but in the olden days when they had ice trucks, and the iceman used to drive down the street, and he had these big 200-300-pound cakes of ice, and they had the score marks in them. But right in the center of that was a white cloud. Now, what do you think the white cloud was? Well, the white cloud was the solids. So what happens is, when they freeze these oils of peppermint, what happens is, this out here is liquid. When they freeze these oils of peppermints, the solids, the things that you want, are going to go into the center of these oils. This water out here in the liquid is going to be frozen. They vacuum this off, and they get a better oil of peppermint. They go to absolutely any extreme that they can to get a great oil of peppermint. Why? It makes all the difference in the world in the finished product. Now, something else. Every natural flavor, every one, doesn't make any difference the name of it or who processes it or anything else. Every natural flavor has some undesirable characteristics. One of the undesirable characteristics in here is a terpene. Now, what happens when the terpene hits the air? It oxidizes. And then the question that you ask, you get the salesman involved in this. What do you think an oxidized terpene smells like? And you're going to give you all kinds of answers. But the answer is a bad terpene smells like turpentine, and it really and truly does. So what happens then is you get a choice. Either you take the extra step to process this oil of peppermint to get the terpene out, or you leave it in there. Now, I'll give you this, that there's not a consumer in the world that would pick up a peppermint product and taste it and say, those suckers didn't take out the terpenes. Never. They would never know what it was. But how do you or how does anybody else respond to something they don't like? What do they say? I don't like it. Now, why don't you like it? I don't know. Now, everybody's had that experience. I don't like that product. Why? I can't tell you. That's one of the reasons. They can't tell you it's a terpene, but they know that there's something in there. There's something else in here that's interesting, and in all oils of peppermint, there's a sulfide. Now, you're familiar with a sulfide if you've been in the country from the sulfur water. Once again, they would never say that that product had the sulfide left in it, would they? I mean, there's no way they could know. But they would know that there's something about that product that they don't like. Or, if you take it out of here and they taste that, then they say, I like that particular product over this one. Now, I just like this one better. But he won't say it is one instance of sulfide or terpene. The reason for this bottle of cinnamon here is very, very interesting. Once again, the cinnamon at our 48 proof, the oils that are in that cinnamon mixed with the spirits, and there's no problem. But what happens is this, in this particular product, there is a fat in this oil of cinnamon. And if you get the proof too high, the fat goes sour, and you can taste it in the product immediately. Isn't that interesting? That when the spirit level stays at a certain mark, like 60 proof, there's no problem with that fat. But if you raise the proof, then the fat in that is going to react poorly with the alcohol, and you're going to have that problem. So these are the things then, these products, that the reasons. Walker does this for peppermint. Walker does this for every product that they produce. In other words, it wouldn't be reasonable, would it, for them to go to all of this trouble here to produce a great peppermint schnapps, take out the terpenes, take out the sulfides, do this triple distillation process right here, use nothing but Colorado beet sugar, nothing but the best spirits. It wouldn't make sense to do that for peppermint schnapps and not do it for the rest of them. It would be absolutely inconsistent, wouldn't it? But you know that Walker is consistent. If they do it for this and they do, then they're going to do it for every product down the line. But now, why do you demonstrate this one? You demonstrate this one because people are familiar with peppermint schnapps. You demonstrate this one because it is relatively easy. It's easier, for instance, to demonstrate something like this, and it's a lot more fun than creme de coco. This is where the business is today. This is the type of thing that the men should know. If they don't know that much about cassis right now, it'll wait. This one won't. This is the one we have to constantly promote. Now, how does all this relate to the other thing that we're talking about, spirits? Remember the three things, the sugar, the flavor, and the spirits? Well, the spirits in Hiram Walker Peppermint Schnapps, and remember, there is no single recipe for any of these cordials. None. You can do anything that you want to with them on flavor, sugar, base spirits. The base spirit for Hiram Walker Peppermint Schnapps, you would think would be what? Now, if you involve the salesman with this, somebody is going to say that, well, you're going to get it out of them. They'll say neutral spirits or alcohol, anything. You have to get them involved in something like this, because when you tell them what the answer is, they're going to remember it longer. The base spirit for Hiram Walker Peppermint Schnapps is it's called a gin-like base. Now why? Why gin? Of all of the products that the salesmen sell, of everything that is in their book, what is the one product that has the highest flavor level and the highest aroma level? There is one product that they have in their book that if you took the label off of it and put it in the middle of the floor and opened it up, that aroma of the juniper would be all over the room in a short time. Gin. So then doesn't it make sense if you're going to produce a product where you want to have a base, a carrier, that will give you a great aroma level and a great taste level, to use gin? Not the gin now. You don't want peppermint gin. You want peppermint schnapps. But you can use a gin-like product. So what Walker does is that they make their regular gin, but they will dilute it, say 10 or 12 times. So what comes out of here then is, it's still gin, isn't it? It has the gin characteristic of the juniper, it has the gin taste. Now what you're going to do is you're going to put that peppermint flavor on top of it, and it's going to be absolutely magnificent. But now here's the thing. When you sample this peppermint, if anybody can say, yeah, I can taste the gin in it, then they made it bad. But I'm telling you, my friends, that there is nobody that you're ever going to run into that's going to say, yeah, I can taste the gin in it. The only thing he's going to know for sure is that this really and truly is a magnificent piece of merchandise. Now, when they taste it, when it gets around to the tasting, and you have to do that, remember, what you do speaks so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. You have to show them everything, because the other man that comes in behind you and talking about his products, all he's going to tell them is that, man, we've got the greatest. In this process of the demonstration, always use this type of a cup, will you? It's thin, it's clear, it's plastic. It's about 5 or 6 ounces. Never those little pill cups, never those pill cups, something like this or even larger. And then what you do is you give them a piece of paper so that they can stick it in front of them if you're going to do a comparison. And tell them, write down, this one is Walker, this one is Arrow, this one is LaRue. Tell them every one. And then when you pour it in there, just give them about this much. But the important thing is you tell them this, don't get started on anything until I tell you, okay? Don't smell it, don't taste it, don't do anything. And if you have people helping you, when you're pouring this product, have them say the same thing to every man they pour it to. Here, don't smell it, don't taste it, don't do anything until we get ready. Now, the reason that you do that is the natural reaction of people is that they're going to pick it as soon as they get it, and they're going to stick their nose into it, and they're going to taste it. Well, you don't want that to happen. What you want them to do is to follow along behind you, and this is the way that you do it. You start them off. There are 3 ways to test any product, aren't there? Well, what are they? The first 2 that come to mind are that you can smell it and you can taste it, but you have to hang in there with them, and finally somebody's going to say sight. That's it, sight. Sight, taste, and smell. Well, if you take something like this water white product here, and you're going to test it or compare it, and it is absolutely clear, then sight is really and truly not the best test, is it? There's nothing to see. That leads to, then, doesn't it? The smell and the taste. Now, which do you think is the better test of any product? Any product. Smell or taste? Now, when you ask the men a question, you have to have that pause to give them time to come up with an answer, and then you pick them out. What do you think it is? Smell or the taste? And you'll get the whole room. What you want to do is to get the whole room to say taste. And then you've made your day, because you say, no, it's smell. The reason that you do that is now you really impressed on them smell. You have really sunk that one home. They'll never forget it after something like that. So what happens then is, that's right, it's smell. Your sense of smell is 1,000 times more dependable than your sense of taste. Your sense of taste depends very much on what happened to you today. If you eat chili or some Mexican or Greek food, or highly spiced food, it may affect your taste. But more than that, if you're coming to work in the morning and you're almost in an accident, it upsets your head. And interestingly enough, when you emotionally you get upset, it throws your taster out of whack. Now, you can still taste chili, but you're not going to be able to pick up the subtle differences in this 2 or 3 products that you're going to taste. So always start with the sense of smell, the aromas. And the first sense aroma, or the sense that you want to experience, are the top notes. And this is the way you do it. You agitate the product and you roll it underneath your nose. You do not stick your nose into this cup. You agitate it like that. And when you think about those top notes are like a balloon with a hook on it. And when you agitate it like this, then the hook that is in the base spirits lets loose and the balloon goes off, and this is what you're smelling. Beautiful, subtle, but very identifiable notes of what? Peppermint, right? Peppermint. If somebody says mint, no, it's always peppermint. Make sure you tell them that what they're smelling is peppermint. Item. If you are comparing 2 or 3 products, then tell them to pick up any one of the 3. It really doesn't make any difference which one you start with. It won't make a bit of difference. They're always going to come to this one because it is the best. After they've done the top notes, then you stick your nose in here. And the reason that you do that last is if you did it first, it'd take away some of the sensitivities for this. Now you stick your nose in there, and it is absolutely beautiful. But it is an aroma of what? Peppermint. You have to take every opportunity to tell the people that what you're testing is peppermint. 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 Now when you taste it, if you take a highly flavored product, something like peppermint, if you put a whole lot of it in your mouth, you'll miss all the subtle tastes. So to taste a product like this, you put just a drop of it on your tongue, a merest drop. If you kind of cluck your tongue, that beautiful taste of peppermint is going to explode all through your mouth. That's what you're looking for. When you think about it, you only taste sweet, sour, bitter, and salt anyway. You only taste on the back portion of your tongue. So you really and truly only need a drop of this to do it. Now, what are you looking for? The experience that you're looking for is this. This you're going to remember, that the product breaks clean on the tongue. That means that you have an incredibly beautiful taste and experience of peppermint, and then it gradually fades away to nothing. All you taste is peppermint. With this one, all you taste is peppermint. In the comparisons, they're going to tell you that, yes, I tasted peppermint, and then I tasted spirits, and then I tasted something. It's the most amazing thing in the world that in this demonstration, if you use competitive products, you don't have to tell them anything. They will tell you, I don't smell any top notes. I don't get a good aroma of peppermint. And I taste peppermint, but I taste spirits. Wrong. The bottle says you're buying peppermint schnapps. It does not say you're buying peppermint and alcohol or peppermint and whatever. You're tasting peppermint schnapps. You should have no experience except peppermint. And that's what you'll have with this one. And that's what you won't have with some of these others. But you don't have to tell them that now. They'll tell it themselves. Remember, you just put a drop of it on your tongue, and it breaks clean as it gradually disappears. Now, it's interesting, but when you think about it, you have to face this question sooner or later, and that is, you tell them. Consumers are never going to have the opportunity to stay here with us and go through something like this, are they? I mean, the top notes and character notes and drops on the tongue and breaks clean on the tongue and the rest of that. They'll never have the opportunity to know this. They will not know that there's a difference between this one and any other, will they? I mean, it's reasonable. Isn't that true? So what you do is you work around and you get everybody to agree that if they don't go through a session like this, they would never know the difference. And then when they've all agreed, then you tell them that the best way to explain it or demonstrate it is this. Say, who smokes? Pick somebody. What kind of cigarette do you smoke? And then when he tells you, suppose he says, well, I smoke Marlboro. Then the thing is, if I gave you a Marlboro and a Lucky Strike and a Chesterfield or Camel or 3 or 4 other different kinds of cigarettes, doesn't make any difference, and you took a drag off each one, could you tell the difference? I mean, I don't say name the brands now, but just could you tell the difference in the 4? Well, if the man's a smoker and he's got that monkey on his back, he can tell you that there's a difference. That's all you want to know. Then you say somebody who drinks a Diet Coke. And if I gave you a Diet Coke and a regular Coke, could you tell the difference? Well, they'll all tell you yes. Or who drinks the 0.5% milk? If I gave you 0.5% milk and regular milk, could you tell the difference? Damn right you can. Everybody can. Now here's the beautiful part about something like this. If they will tell you that they can tell the difference in cigarettes, and they can. If they tell you that they can tell the difference in Cokes and Diet Cokes and the rest of them, and they can. And if they tell you that they can tell the difference in milk, and they can, then can't you tell the difference here? Of course you can. Can't you tell the difference between very good ice cream and cheap ice cream? You know, when you think about it, if you go through all of the life's experiences that you have in tasting and smelling and experiencing, you can tell the difference. And the reason is this, that everybody's got this reference point up here in their head. And the reference point are all of the taste experiences that you've ever had. The man that smokes the Marlboro cigarettes, his reference point up here is for Marlboro. When he takes a drag off of a Camel, it goes up against the reference point, and his head says it's different. And I like it better, I don't like it as well. And that'll happen every time he goes up against something that is not the reference point. It works for cigarettes, it works for colas, it works for milk, it works for ice cream, it works for anything. It works for peppermint schnapps. That's why it's incredibly important that we get the distribution, that the consumer has the option and the opportunity to taste whatever he's tasting and then taste something like this. Another one of the big reasons that we want to do this type of a demonstration, and it's incredibly important that we teach the salesman. Remember, you have to have product knowledge, and you have to be convinced that the products that you're selling are the best on the market. The reason that we have to do that is we have to make him a better salesman to go to his customer. When you think about it, think of all of the salesmen that a customer will see in a week's time. What would there be, 15? Aren't all of them doing the same thing? They're saying, what do you got for me today, Ernie? What do you got on the list? You said you were going to buy 5 cases. You said you were going to do this. You said you were going to do that. When you think about it, and in all of your experience, and you see everybody, how many salesmen do you think the retailer really sees in a week's time? Now, not people with order pads, but salesmen. Not that many. What is it that the salesman does that sets him apart? He can really intelligently talk about his product, and more than that, he can demonstrate the product. And in this process of talking about the product and knowing the product and demonstrating the product, he's also showing that he has an incredible belief and confidence in the product. And you know, something like that the retailer appreciates and picks up. Now, we're talking about single flavors on peppermint schnapps. When you want to demonstrate the blackberry flavored brandy, the point that you want to make there, do it the same way. Do the top notes first, then do the character notes, then do the taste. And while they're doing the tasting, especially if you do a comparison, you're going to find that some of these other competitive blackberry flavors brandy taste more like raspberries. They taste more like cherries. They taste more like mixed fruit. Now, you don't have to tell the people that. They'll tell you. So what your point is to say that, what does it say on the label? It says blackberry flavored brandy, doesn't it? It should taste exactly like blackberries. Not cherries, not raspberries, not mixed fruit, nothing. This, if it's made right. And to make that product right is incredibly difficult because you can't make blackberry flavored brandy just from blackberries and brandy. Now, this is the one exception to the rule where there's no formula. The government says for a product to be called a blackberry flavored brandy, apricot flavored brandy, a cherry flavored brandy, it has to be 70 proof, it has to have 100% brandy base, and it has to have 2.5% weight sugar. It's about a tablespoon and a half. Has to be that. Most of them have much more sugar than that, by the by. But the net is it has to be 70 proof, and it has to have a straight brandy base. But the interesting thing is, you know, is this could not have a regular straight California brandy base because the intense flavor of that would be always fighting against the blackberries. So what Walker uses is a neutral brandy. Still brandy by government definition, but it's neutral. It doesn't have that high a flavor level. And for the blackberries, now you know blackberries have very little flavor either. You know, if you remember, your experience on blackberry is they're kind of tart inside, and there's not a whole lot of juice. So to make a blackberry flavored brandy, this is really difficult because what happens is that with Walker, there are over 14 different flavors in our blackberry flavored brandy. Now, remember, since there's no recipe, there's no formula, you can do anything you want to with these flavors. It doesn't make any difference what these flavors are, does it? As long as the experience that you have is blackberry, right? The fact that there may be 2 or 3 different types of cherry flavors in here, there may be 2 or 3 different types of raspberry flavors in here, In most anything that you get these days, you get lemons and God knows what else in there. But the net is, in Hiram Walker blackberry flavored brandy, there are 14 different. These are all supporting flavors or complementary flavors. But the important thing is all you taste is blackberry. This can be anything, but all you taste is blackberry. And that's the way it is with every one of Walker's products. What's on the label is exactly the experience that you're going to have. It will never change. And the beautiful part about it is the stability of these products you're used to. You don't have to buy it fresh off of the bottling line for you to taste blackberry. That's because they're well made. Now remember, we started talking about sugar, and the point that I wanted to show you was that in this Domino sugar, when you mix this with the distilled water, you're going to see a lot of the yellowness and the impurities in there. I don't know if this camera can pick it up, but there is the difference. If you want to try this experiment for yourself, what you're going to see is that this one on the right, which is the Domino sugar, has a very definite yellow cast to it, and this one here that is on the left, which is the Colorado beet sugar, is absolutely pure. Does this thing show up? Can you see this? Can you see the difference in the two? Can you see the colors? All right. If you can't see the colors, then what we'll do is we'll send you some sugar, and you make the demonstration yourself, and you'll see for yourself that there is an incredible difference. Now, how important is all of this? Well, I tell you what, it's the single most important job that we have today, and that is, first of all, to sell the salesman on these products, the fact that they're well made, that there's an incredible integrity in all of these things, and have him then take the message out to his customers. And that's the thing that we have to talk about. At every sales meeting, you should demonstrate a Hiram Walker cordial. At every sales meeting. If the demonstration is nothing more than, today we're going to taste cream de cocoa. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it. And it takes 2 or 3 minutes. You have to do it at every sales meeting. Why? Because cordials are the things that are selling today. Cordials are the things that the wholesaler is making money from today. Ask him. Cordials are the things that the retailer is making money from today. Ask him. Cordials are the thing that is going to make this company incredibly successful in the future. And what does it depend on? It depends on you getting this message of the product to the salesman.